Hello, I'm Chris Solo, and welcome to the Fabled 42, where we build the community through friendship, gaming, and chaos. You're watching the State of Tabletop and Technology panel here on our special charity weekend for Child's Play in accordance with Lawful Stupid and our sponsors, Tabletop Game and Hobby. So before we get into today's panel, let's do quick info about what we're actually doing. Devin.
Hey everybody, I am Devin from Lawful Stupid. If you tuned into the game yesterday, you saw me play with Chris and some of the other Fabled 42 members. Had a blast. Uh, I'm with a D&D podcast. We're called Lawful Stupid. You can look us up on most any pod platform. Particularly, we say Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Those are the main ones we see people listening in from. We also have our videos posted to YouTube as well. In 2018, we started our podcast, and so we knew that we wanted to, of course, reach out to a community of people who also enjoyed TTRPGs. And so we created our Discord, is where we largely interact with a lot of people, but we wanted to do a little bit more. And so we decided we wanted to donate to charity. And in May of 2018, we reached out to Child's Play Charity. They are a charity who support children who are in hospitals for chronically long amounts of time, and maybe those hospitals are far away from family and friends who can't come and see those kids all the time. They also support children who are in domestic abuse shelters. What they do is provide the games, entertainment to help these kids just take their minds away from pain, anxiety, fear that they may experience while they're in these situations. So it's a great charity to donate to, and every year since 2018, in the month of May, we do Min Max Mankind. And the deal with Min Max Mankind is it's very similar to the Ice Bucket Challenge. If you remember, I'm going to do the Ice Bucket Challenge, and then I'm going to challenge X amount of people. Well, what we do is we roll a dice, a D20, at the end of every game that we play in May, and donate that amount to Child's Play. And what's kind of evolved into is, of course, we would challenge other people on video, and hopefully those people would challenge more people as well. We found everyone doesn't have a D&D game that they're playing, and there are people who don't even know what D&D is and still want to give. And so we've really expanded that to say, just go to this link and give, and you can give your money for free. Can you believe that? And so we've been able to, at this point, with help from the game last night as well, we're at $3,400 of our $3,500 goal. So
Wow.
we're hoping by tomorrow we not only meet but exceed that amount for Child's Play charity. We have a lot of raffle items that vendors and artists in our community have donated to entice people to donate. So if you donate at least $10 to Child's Play charity, whether you just give or you're rolling, at the games you play in May, if you go to, and we would have the links in here, I can put those in here in just a moment. You go to minmaxmankind.org. One, you can donate there with the donate buttons to the Child's Play charity. Two, at the very bottom of that page is where you're going to fill out your name, your address, and your email. That way you can enter it into the raffle. And we're going to be doing that tomorrow night. So then Sunday we should be we'll be telling everyone who won.
Awesome.
And what's important about that as well is some of the vendors said, hey, we don't have the means to ship overseas right now. So if you win, you're definitely going to be able to get something maybe in the form of a commission by some of our great artists. So if you win, you're going to get something cool. So if you want to donate, go to minmaxmankind.org, or the link pops up in here a lot. I've seen Chris been putting that up. And then let us know who you are so we can make sure to get you into that raffle.
Awesome.
So that's about it for us, Lawful Stupid. We encourage you to go listen to us. We're not for everybody, but every podcast isn't for everybody. We think we're funny.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have been posting the link in there. We do still have our donation thing up there. I actually don't even know if Jason is honoring the $100 monster drop. But if you do donate anything down there and it doesn't apply to the Lawful Stupid games tonight or tomorrow night, I will apply that to our Fabled game tomorrow morning. So either way, just click the link, help a really awesome cause, and watch some chaos. That's the idea.
Yeah.
Thank you, Devin, for the history and a little bit about who you guys are. Let's jump to Thad.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Thad Casey, one of the developers of Forkboard. We're a new system that lets you play your favorite tabletop and RPGs and board games remotely with your friends and family. It's a core to the system is you're actually playing the physical stuff. So you don't have to rebuy it digitally. You're actually playing your own board games. You're playing with your own terrain to play Dungeons and Dragons. And if you watch us on our own streams, or Fabled 42 uses it a ton, so does Dwarven Forge. It's a new thing. Just came out. If you haven't heard about us, we did fund on Kickstarter a couple months back. Still accepting late pledges, and everybody that's a late pledge or a Kickstarter backer has access to the beta now during COVID. So we've released a not fully featured but very functional version of Vorpal board out to our beta community, and folks are loving it and putting the hardware together themselves and hacking things together just so they can play during this craziness in the world. So thanks a lot for having me on today.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Sean?
And Sean froze right after I got done talking about Vorpal board.
All right, we'll jump to Laura.
Hey, my name is Laura Croston, and I'm here on behalf of Tabletop Game and Hobby in Overland Park, Kansas. We're a local game store, a friendly local game store, and we offer a variety of non-electronic games, puzzles, and gaming-adjacent hobby materials, paints, brushes, terrain building materials, etc. You want me to talk more about what we are interested in here with this discussion, or just talk about tabletop? Because that's really all there is to say about the organization.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good segue, and then we can get into the conversation. Maybe ? We'll wait for it. Sean is with Wounded Warrior Project, but I will drop that into the chat. We did a really awesome, fun stream on Monday, Memorial Day, with myself. Laura was there as well, representing most of the stream were vets. I myself, 12-year combat vet. We had TJ, who was a Marine. We had a lot of vets. And it was really fun. I think we raised $870 something, I think, for the stream. 3 dashed lines. I've never seen that. That's a new one.
It's part of the new release.
Oh, is that
3 seed?
But yeah, Wounded Warrior Project is a super awesome program. When Sean gets back, he can introduce himself. Hello, sir.
I think I'm back.
You are.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I got bounced, and then so I guess it was a good time for me to pop back in.
Yeah, it's super robotic, unfortunately. We'll see what's going on with Sean's internet. Definitely looks like. No,
Yep, you gotta have a stable internet connection. Sorry, it's just like any other tech software.
Yeah. Anyway, so we'll get into today's thing. So, it's the idea today is just to talk about tabletop. Talk about where we've come with this evolution of just starting with paper and pencil with any tabletop games or a normal board game, and where we have now evolved into this today. Can you all see Sean, or is it just me who can't see Sean?
I can see Sean.
Oh, I can't see Sean. Well,
He's frozen.
He's either frozen or very skilled at being still.
got it.
We have a player in our regular D&D stream that he sits so still. Chris Sims, he was actually one of the writers of 4th edition, yeah. I think. And he's like stoic, and he doesn't move. And then all of a sudden he'll just speak, and we think he's frozen. It's
But yeah, this is a great segue into the thing. So you all know I've been doing this for a really long time. I used to stream video games for a while, and then I stopped doing it for a year or so, and I picked back up, kicking myself that I should have just kept going, because then I could have brought that community over here, but I digress. The evolution of all of this, like when I first started, we were all in the same studio, and then that just didn't work with locations in San Francisco, and then we started to branch off and people started to move, and we had jumped to Zoom. We tried Zoom video, we tried Google Hangouts, we tried Discord video, we tried Lightstream, we tried Roll20 even. There's so many different options out there for people to use. They all have the same things when you think about it. When it's bandwidth, it's servers, it's internet issues, it's people trying to connect and do other things. And then I don't even know how I met Thad. and we got into Vorpal. And Vorpal is still something very similar. It's something that has definitely taken this to the next level. But let's talk about that. So I'd like everybody to roll initiative.
Oh, all right.
Let's see who wants to take the first. We do have Sean back too. So Sean, while you're back and getting settled in, you want to just introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I think it was on my side. I had a power surge a little while ago. I think it messed with my router. Can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
Yep.
Right.
All right, so I think we're back up and running. So I do apologize about that. I'm Sean. I'm with the Wounded Warrior Project. I'm an outreach specialist. What I do is direct service events for our wounded, ill, and injured throughout the nation, really internationally. We also have a team out in Germany. With everything went down, we obviously pivoted. We already had an amazing program that's led by Matt Twig, our live streaming and gaming specialist that does our stream to serve and WWP play side of the house. With us switching heavily into virtual content, obviously we switched over. We popped up Discord, pulled in the outreach specialists like myself that are closet gamers, and we got to shine and step out in our geekdom and be very proud of it. And our Discord's blown up. It's been great watching all the warriors engage, not just in gaming, but being able to share those personal stories, being able to connect with veterans across the nation. And really, it doesn't matter where they are. So we're talking to people in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, down to Key West and out to Hawaii, and they're all able to engage in their own homes and be able to be surrounded by their fellow veterans. So it's extremely impactful. And then when it comes to tabletop gaming, we put the feelers out there to see if there's enough knuckleheads like ourselves out there that want to get some campaigns rolling. We did a couple one-shots and built interest, and we just started our first big campaign. So we're rocking out with it, and it's been a blast doing some classic Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, and it was an awesome thing. It was a no-brainer, and I don't know why it took me so damn long to do it. Like, been part of you guys for a while. I'm a 12-year vet myself, and like, why haven't I contacted you before? So we did, and we did that big charity event on Monday. It was a blast. It was a blast to play. I mean, there's so many of my players that are veterans, and it was just really fun to just. It was a different game. It was definitely a different game. We all just had a very similar mindset, and it was nice. It felt like home. But so we do have some questions pouring in, but the question that I had started with is just how did you all get into just virtual gaming in general? And I think Devin had the highest roll, so Devin, was you first.
Yeah, so I was introduced to D&D by our current DM. We got in the same unit as him, as an aviation unit back in 2000. I had just come back from Afghanistan and was placed in that unit, and so oddly enough, so he is the one that is. Hold on, baby. He was the one who got me into it. And so we actually lived Kentucky, Tennessee, and then there's a guy I worked with, Dwayne, who was Tennessee, and we got it with another guy in Kentucky. But what happened is Shane ended up moving out to California. I live now in Missouri. Then we had one in Tennessee and a guy who was still in Missouri. So we had no choice if we wanted to play D&D, but to do it digitally. And so we began doing that originally over Skype, and we've since made, now we use Google Meet. Seems to be a little bit better platform. Is Skype one of your sponsors? No. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So we use Google Meet now to do most of the stuff we do with that. And the way that we do the podcast is we record our own audios individually at home through Audacity, and then we have an audio editor who smashes that all together. Ginge is his name, so I want to give a shout out to him. Ginge does a great job for us, awesome. Adds music and stuff in. So that's kind of the path we've taken from 2018 to now, and learning more and more about audio and better things as we go. I just got this new microphone. It's supposed to be a lot better, and I think it is than the Blue Snowball I had, but Blue Snowball is also amazing.
You do sound very good. You got a good podcast voice.
Yes.
So.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Laura, next up on initiative.
I got into gaming in general. My dad actually handed my first set of dice at the same time as he handed me my first game controller. The dice were from the original Red Box, and the game controller was an old Bally paddle system that gives you context for how old I am. In terms of online gaming, a couple of years ago, I was going to go to Gen Con with some friends, and they all had these high-level Pathfinder characters for PFS that they wanted to play. And in order to catch up with them so I could level my character by the time that I went, I played in all of the online PFS games. So that was my experience. It was this whole like just immersive, quick crash course into Roll20 and that kind of jazz, finding games on Warhorn. And until I did not love it. I did not love that experience. But once COVID hit, it became one of my tasks to figure out how to make online gaming stuff, board games as well as tabletop RPGs work. And so that's what I've been doing for the last probably 3 months is learning more about it. And this has been a great discovery. You guys, this is really cool, the technology that you have here.
Awesome. Thank you. And Sean, I know you just mentioned that you recently switched from paper to digital. What's your connection with the digital world?
So my digital world honestly started way back when with floppy disks and IBM and watching my dad playing like old school pixelated Camelot and Robin Hood. So if we're going to start at the beginning, like I used to be his little buddy sitting next to him because I wasn't allowed to touch the computer yet. But that's a great way to start building the love. Went from there to Wing Commander. My dad was very big into like the space simulators, flight simulators. Kind of worked because he's also a veteran Navy guy. But for me, I was always pulled towards RPGs. I was pulled towards that, role-playing aspect where you can have a little bit of fun and kind of immerse yourself in another world. So I hit the paper version and tabletop versions really hard early on in life, and then kind of intermittent throughout my Marine Corps career. I was in for 14 years, so deployments and shifts and stuff kind of broke up campaigns here and there. So I was pretty prone to one-shots than campaigns. And then recently here, obviously with everybody getting to stay at home, we got to build up that group. We are utilizing Roll20 right now, so I'm new to trying out all the different ones and trying to figure out which one fits best for us and our crew. But I will say our crew's dynamic, and I love all of them. And it's entertaining watching some of our guys, like his screen name's Target Man, trying to feed wolves bread to calm them down. Like some of these guys, it's their first time in Dungeons and Dragons, and they're like just running into rooms and opening chests, and we're like, "Whoa, perception check, bro!"
Don't pet the dire wolf. It's not going to go on.
So it's great that we're also getting to bring in these new players to introduce them to the feel of how it is just a lot of fun, and you can very easily cause your group some trouble by doing something nutso. We almost got killed by a magic rug that was apparently in the room. Things got real very quickly.
Rug of Smothering is a go-to.
Yep, that was it.
That'll do it.
Thad.
So I've gotten back into board games and tabletop recently, really because of Vorpal Board. So our original CEO, James Lang, he created it to be able to play Gloomhaven when he moved from Wisconsin over to Albany, New York, and he was a stay-at-home dad and software programmer by background, and said, I want to be able to play Gloomhaven with my friends in my gaming group from back home, and how do I do that? And he started with Google Hangouts, and it couldn't give him the experience of being at the table, so he started hacking together an early version of Vorpal, and 4 years later, we funded on Kickstarter. The way I got involved with Vorpal is, we had two software programmers as the original founders who knew nothing about hardware. And I'm the manufacturing guru for the Vorpal team. So I'm the person that builds the cool scanning and component boxes and our table candy, if you will. And I do all the manufacturing work. And we met because of that. And I really just absolutely fell in love with the product and the team, and have gone in full bore into a startup, which is what I do professionally anyway, but this is all free work, which is the difference. So we did fund on Kickstarter, and it's been absolutely ridiculously phenomenal just to be able to connect with people playing really simple games. But I mean, I've been fortunate enough. I played a game with Dwarven Forge. We did a cool virtual GaryCon game with Joe Manganiello. Have met some amazing dungeon masters that I just would never have been able to play a game with and meet, for that matter, if it hadn't been for a virtual tool as an option. All the games that I play in are with people from all over the country. And I still play a home game every once in a while, but it meets so infrequently just because folks to try to get their schedules together, and then I got a sick kid, so I can't come tonight kind of thing. I can't leave the house, and Vorpal's just been really enabling for that for me personally as a gamer. So it's been an awesome couple of years for sure.
It has. I wish I would have found you guys sooner, honestly. But here we are now. So, my story does go back way back in the 90s. I mean, I used to play Ultima Online back in like 95, which was a huge MMO back then, which it sucked because if you didn't play it all the time, you just get PK'd all the time, and it was just like, all right, cool, I'm dead now. Those 17 hours of work I just put in is gone. But, I do have an extensive experience in a lot of other MMOs. Like, I have too many hours in Minecraft and Ark and all those things. But 2003 is actually where I got my nickname Solo from. I was a beta tester for World of Warcraft before it came out. And then I got a lot of practice in the game. So when we actually started playing the game with friends who sucked at it, they'd always die, and I keep soloing things by myself. But that was kind of the fun segue to that. But Tabletop and D&D, like, I played a little bit of 2nd edition in, like, 96, 97, I think it was 2nd edition, I can't remember. But that was back when you weren't supposed to play D&D, right? Like, depending on who your parents were and who you were and where you were in the country, you weren't supposed to play D&D in the 80s and 90s, right? Whether if it was cool or it was evil or whatever. So I took a break, and like we were joking about, I think it was off camera, about, me being a vet, I joined the Navy, no one played video games or tabletop. So I stopped playing D&D for 20 years. I actually started playing D&D 2 years ago, 5th edition, when we started episode 1 of Realms of Ukador. Was my first time ever DMing. My first time DMing was live on a stream. Like, that's how ridiculous I am, I think, in this the whole thing. But it's been an awesome journey. Trying to figure out all this tech stuff and doing things and using all my extensive years of military and film work just to try to make the best production I can and DMing things the best that I can and all that. But yeah, it's been this wild ride of like, man, I've been trying to be a storyteller my entire life, and I just kind of fell into D&D, and here we are, and this is amazing. So yeah, I mean, the tech part of it too is like, we couldn't do it. Like, COVID or not COVID, like, I couldn't do it when I moved away from the Bay Area. Like, there is a community up here where I live now, but it's not the same. But I can still play with any of, a lot of my players are on the East Coast now. So, like, I'm able to play with anybody around the country, which is just super, super wild. We did have a question in the chat. Let me scroll up a little bit. This question is for Sean. Lone Ranger asks, what's your link to D&D? Is it just 5e? Oh, you're muted, man.
I accidentally hit it on my actual headset.
There you go.
So, I'm what you call not computer illiterate, but again, recent transfer to online gaming when it comes to this stuff. So I will freely admit I will probably mute myself, all sorts of craziness. But no, I played similar to Chris back in the day. I played some of the earlier editions. I had got into it in like middle school, high school time frame for me. So that would have been like mid 90s. I know I look a lot older than I am, by the way. Most people put me substantially older than I am because my beard decided as soon as I retired to come out pure gray.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
about. I've only been out for 2 years and it came out like this. So, but yeah, high school, middle school is really I got my teeth into it, and then in the military it was occasional one shots when I can get into it moving forward. But yeah, branching out into other games, I tried out Warhammer a little bit, I tried out Pathfinder a little bit, but I always found my way back to Dungeons and Dragons. It's just, I guess, kind of where my heart is, and it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Anybody else in the chat have any other questions? So when we think about tabletop, when we think about where we've been and where we're going with just the online tabletop world, with programs like Vorpal and everything else, is like where do we see this stopping? Do we see this continually to evolve into something better? Is it already as good as it's going to get? This is open for anybody, by the way.
Well, I'm holding out for holograms, so.
I mean, there are a lot of things with tech that can get crazy, right? I mean, we've got a whiteboard of wish list kind of stuff that's come from the community, but also some really crazy stuff that we've come up with ourselves. But the thing that I hope we don't lose as a community is that the actual tactile piece of it, the physical components, that is, for me personally, and I think for a lot of folks in the hobby, is just part of it, right? You have cards, you have minis, you have terrain, you're still playing with those elements. You're still rolling real dice. I mean, we have digital dice too, but I still have a bag full of some cool stuff, and I use it, and that's part of it for me. And I've been really excited in the last few years about just the massive variety and the quality of things that have come out in both the board game and the tabletop world. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the actual physical components are a big part of it. I know that that's one of the things that I'm a big fan of with regard to Vorpal board specifically. But there's something different when you're playing a game online. There is something different about seeing a pawn that appears on the screen. This, two-dimensional just appears on the screen dragon versus hauling the big thing up off the floor and chunk it onto the table. Right? I mean, there's a difference there for your players and everybody else. I don't think you generally get the response from your players on screen that you do when you see that thing hit the table. And being able to do that from a virtual perspective is really special.
That is the main reason. My players, I have so many players. Like, I legitimately use the same 2 damn D20s for everything, right? Die Hard dice, metal dice. They look and they sound good. They roll well. Cool, right? I use the same dice, but I have so many players that are superstitious about everything. They like their 75 real dice, so they get really angry when I'm like, hey, for these 2 things, you have to roll Vorpal. Why? For that reason right there. Initiative and death saves are the 2 biggest components of yeah, and everyone cheers, right? Even when whenever I'm an NPC or a player, I use Vorpal all the time because I like that same component. Yes, I'm sorry, Thad. We have this ongoing joke where, like, if you've watched Critical Role, they always say, "Don't fuck me, Gil." There's an ongoing joke, even though Thad has nothing to do with the components of the dice.
Yeah, I'm not the software programmer.
But he is the face. But he's the face of Vorpal to all the people at Fable 42. Dice are dice, right? Odds are odds. Sometimes Vorpal rolls well. Sometimes it rolls shitty. Our last game this morning, we had literally the entire party was under 10 for initiative. I've never seen that happen. It was fantastic. But it's just one of those things where, like, oh, you get angry. Either you yell at your dice or you put it in dice jail. I mean, I think you talked about Vorpal dice jails. I can't remember. But, there's all sorts of fun components. But that's it. That's what makes this. Because, trust me, I've been trying to get that same chemistry that you get at a table virtually, which is really hard. Like, we have my players, they do this now, which is really funny. I have to get it right, where I hand the cup to Thad, because we all see each other the same way. So I'll hand the cup to him, and then he'll grab. It's disorienting. He'll grab it, and then he'll hand it to somebody else, and that's our way of ha ha ha, like we're handing things to each other, and it's this really fun thing. But yeah, I'm sorry, I went on a little squirrel thing. But yeah, like the interaction with the virtual, being able to see those digital rolls, being able to zoom in on things, like those are all the really cool features that we love, right? But there was a question for you, Thad. Let me pull it up. I lost it. Oh yeah, someone was asking about. Is there a planned version for something like that without the hardware component? And further investigation was without using all the stuff that I use. So, Thad, can you talk about all the components that you always want me to use but I never use?
Well, so we've talked about just a software only version of Vorpal. And it may come out at some point. Right now, the product that we're offering is you're buying the hardware and getting a couple of free months of subscription. And then after that, it's a software as a service monthly subscription fee.
Yeah, so, I think the question was also talking about like the tokens and components and things you can upload and move around and utilize on the actual board.
Yep. So the way we get all that stuff in, Vorpal runs off of a web app, and that's all we're in today. So that's all we have running, but everything else is connected through a smartphone. Anybody that's in the game, this Vorpal app is totally free to download. So you just connect your Vorpal session to that app, and that lets you load components in from your phone through that app. So I can add cards, I can add tokens, I can add pictures of
it's really easy
the
too.
Crazy art and NPC that's playing. And this Vorpal app is also how you stream the tabletop and whatever you happen to have on your tabletop, the board game itself or anything like that. So it's all very, very simple.
Yeah, I mean, like,
it lets you do it real time.
What you can kind of see is I just have one of those normal little accordion arm things with. This is all I Mod Podge this whole thing together, but essentially that's it. I just have a smartphone. That's what I use for all my battle cameras. That's what I use for the components. So whenever we like this one doesn't count, but like whenever I log into a stream and you see our overlays that are actually on the Vorpal board where the dice roll on top of it, that's an image, a PNG image I just sent to myself and uploaded it on the phone. It's really easy. It's very, very user friendly. You will see a lot of those tokens for tomorrow's show. Lawful Stupid's DM. It's just sounds really bad when I'm saying stupid DM, like comma.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Ray has a lot of like little dungeon maps and tokens and things, so you will see that very much
Cool.
like you
Very
would
cool.
see on Roll20. So you're gonna see a lot of those tokens. I don't do that because I just really like real stuff, but I'm going to start to evolve to do that. Like we did, we do other things that help with that. But let's see. These are all just comments. Does anybody on the panel have any other questions for one another? Maybe.
As we look around. Sean, you said you've been with Winter Warrior for 2 years now. Is that right?
I'm just past 3 years, actually, just about a week and a half ago.
What are some ways that we, perhaps even just like Lawful Stupid podcast or anyone out there who's, how can we get involved beyond? Is there some things, events we can hold as podcasts, or are there events that you guys hold that might help boost some attention for you guys to help with donations, that kind of thing? What are some alternate options for getting involved with Winter Warrior Project other than just giving money? I know that's the most important probably, but
Yeah, there's a lot of different options. We have, when it comes to fundraising, that's not necessarily my side of the house. So Matt Twig is the go-to expert on that. But depending on your interest level when it comes to that side of the house, there's everything from our Stream to Serve. But we have people that are just streaming in support of WWP, connecting with our game live streaming and gaming specialist, and he kind of works that thing on the back end. And we have people just raising awareness. When it comes to podcasts or local organizations that just want to highlight, that's when you reach out to somebody more on my side where, you run a local shop and you'd love to have veterans come in and play a game. Not that I'm looking at somebody who's on the screen right now that gave me this idea. And we're like, hey, we'd love to be able to set up, a cool one-shot to bring some warriors in. It'd be somebody like me that would put it out there to our warriors in the area, like, hey, there's this amazing opportunity. Would anybody like to take advantage of it? Go down there, be introduced to tabletop gaming, whatever game it may be. And while we're there, obviously, somebody like myself will be able to talk to those veterans about different programs, whether it's mental health resources, job resources, getting your benefits adjusted, corrected, enhanced, whatever may need to be done there, or really my side of the house, which is the social engagement. We're kind of the hand that's out there so we can connect with those wounded, ill, and injured warriors throughout the nation and help them connect with the right program, the right referral, whether it's internal to us or external to one of our amazing partners. So the opportunity there is kind of broad. It's really just what you are interested in. So if you would like to have somebody like me jump in and talk, that's a conversation. If you want to do a fundraising element, Matt Twig is the go-to human being for that. He's who I turn to for all those questions. And if it's something more direct where you want to get some knuckleheads like myself and Chris to actually be there in physical form and see that dramatic reveal of the dragon slamming on the table, that's definitely different opportunities. It's really talking with those local teams, seeing if it's something we can facilitate. And I've done all sorts of classes ranging from gaming things like this. We've your more customary, I guess, video gaming side of the house too, where we've done the Call of Duty tournaments, we've done the Madden tournaments, we've done face-to-face opportunities. But heck, we branch out. I've done beekeeping classes where we brought warriors into a local place to learn how to do urban beekeeping, and that was phenomenal. So we really do draw a breadth of like what interests are there out there for our warriors that they'll get engaged and meet like individuals. So if I do a tabletop event, all those warriors are interested in tabletop, so they may leave with a new buddy to meet up with, game with, do some one shots with, maybe a new DM to heckle and annoy. That's typically my job in the group. So
very cool. Thank you.
Awesome. We have a question for Laura. Is that corgi sleeping peacefully behind you?
He is not a corgi. He is a husky something. I call him a purebred North American doofus hound. He is, yeah, he is. Hey, Briscoe, come here. No, maybe I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
He is pretty lazy. Yeah, he's very cute, but he's a husky mix of some kind. If he stood up, you'd see his legs are way too long for Corgi Town. But, yeah, and he is generally pretty lazy. That's the Chillmeister dog over there. Dog the second. Dog the first is being a grumpy old man in the bedroom because that's what he does these days. He is not as chill. So if somebody comes to the front door, you will all be aware of it.
That's amazing. We did have another question. Why not have a Gen Con like event with all of you to raise money for Wounded Warrior Project? That is actually something I'm talking with Matt now about, because I'm wanting to help as much as possible with Wounded Warrior Project and their streaming and what we're trying to do. Because I streamed 53 hours for GaryCon. We're getting ready to do We're actually getting ready to do digital Gen Con. I have Ukador Con coming up in the fall. So there's a lot of virtual conventions now, and I've really found the formula for it, which is like what we're doing for this weekend event. This is a little mini event, but essentially it's 2 live streams and a panel in between. So that is definitely something that we are doing for our side anyway with Wounded Warrior Project, because it hits home. You have other streams like Critical Role that would. It was A26LA was their big charity, right? Where big portions of their proceeds go straight to there. I'm trying to do something similar for Fabled 42, but Sean, are there anything else in the works for you guys for big events, like big events or anything like that?
Yeah, we have some amazing live streaming opportunities popping up, but I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to go down that road. One, it's slightly outside my wheelhouse, and I'm not sure how far along they are. But we do have an active Twitch channel, obviously Facebook Live, all the normal social media channels. But when it comes to being able to actually watch some Warriors playing, we're all about it. We've done a couple of tournaments recently. We teamed up with CGI and Helix, and they put together a whole virtual esports arena that was amazing. If you check out the Twitch, you'll be able to see the videos from that. We also do Monday Night Mayhem, where we just do our own local, just like community events where we just hop in and play. Sometime that gets popped up. But when it comes to the super cool, like kind of standout events that people are going to want to like tune in for, because it's a little bit unique, there's definitely some stuff in the pipeline, but it's still in the planning phases. So I am not going to get myself in trouble.
That's a good response.
Tabletop Game and Hobby would love to be involved in these events. We are extraordinarily involved in local cons, but as you can imagine, most of those are slowly getting axed as we progress through the year. We just lost our July con, Can't Con, which is held at the Overland Park Convention Center. They just canceled for this year. The only one left on the calendar this year is Midwest Game Fest in November. But we would love to be involved with you guys. And the events that we run right now range from actual gaming events and some kind of special, we'll call them unboxing events. I am also not prepared to talk about completely, but they're sort of new release, tied to new releases that we plan to stream. And then we also have some in-store events that we usually do that we're going to convert to online. But we also do a lot of teaching. We teach GM classes, we run games, and we also teach story and strategy classes, which are sort of combinations of a couple of board games, some literature, and some humanities stuff squeezed together. So, for example, we have one based around the Sherlock Holmes stories, where we have a couple of Sherlock Holmes games. We talk about some Sherlock Holmes stories, short stories, and then we also do some stuff about the Victorian era and why detective stories became a big deal during that time. So all those kinds of events, we'd love to be involved with any conventions that you run, both from a panelist kind of educational workshop perspective and from a gaming perspective. Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot. We also teach writing workshops. So that's another thing that we do, and we'd love to get involved with you guys if there's anything that you sponsor.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I host events. Since we switched digital, I've actually got to dip my toes a little bit into doing nationwide events too, so it's been unique for me. But no, education events are something that we're all about when it comes to learning things. I know one of my teammates is working on a streaming series to help introduce veterans that are interested in getting into streaming on how to do it. We were talking about how to build your own PC classes. So there's a wide variety of things going out there. Because there is a lot of people who like to get their hands dirty, actually learn how to do things. So I think that's amazing, and it's something we can definitely talk about. I love the idea of, like I said, on the most most recent campaign we have some new members that are just out doing some crazy stuff, which is great. They're learning while they're rolling, and hopefully we don't have some characters get written off early on in this campaign. But
it's 5e. That's very tough.
It almost happened, and we had a group of 8. It almost happened. Like, it was, whew. We made it through though. But it's those kind of opportunities. But yeah, like learning how to play, introducing our characters, our guys who have been playing for years that would love to figure out how to be, that DM and actually kind of leading the group. I think that's a great way, and the Warriors would truly appreciate it. That's the kind of stuff that gets them a little bit excited, because they get to not just participate, but now they're getting to take a full effect in it. And that warrior that just learned how to be a DM is now going, all right, cool, WP, thanks, you're amazing, but I'm about to grab these warriors and we're about to shoot off on our own and go do this epic campaign that I just came up with. Hopefully with not too many homebrews. I'm not homebrews go a little sideways on me.
Yeah, no, that is actually, we've found it through our experience with working with the community. What we found is there are effectively two main reasons that people hesitate to get into GMing. One of them is the GMing itself. That becomes daunting for them because they're very comfortable with the game. They like being a player, but the idea of taking on that mantle of leading the group is a little bit intimidating. So we geared half of our stuff toward our GM educational stuff to the people who are getting into the idea of GMing. The other obstacle is the technology. So we've got an entire branch that we kind of cut off and started a different direction, which is, okay, so here's the technology. Let us show you how to use the tech that we have available to run your games. And we found that both of those get different people in them. We rarely have somebody who does both. It seems like people have only chosen one obstacle that is their sort of, this is in my way, and we try to help them past that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, I know we've talked about a little bit about this, Laura, with what we're gonna try to help each other with all of this, and I've done other panels too with new DMs or GMs or lore masters, or depending on which game we're playing, and the biggest thing is just do it. Like, every GM, every DM is different. When I first started, I mean, we talked about this. Like, I've only been doing this 2 years, and the reason why I think I am where I am today is because I record my sessions and I watch them. So, like, that's my biggest piece of advice to anybody who's getting into it. Even if it's a home game, record it. Tell your players, I'm going to record this just for my own sake, because you can go back as a GM and watch it. So I literally go back, not anymore because I don't have time, because I have too many shows on my network, but I used to go back and watch 3 or 4 times every single 3-hour episode. The first time I would just watch myself and watch what I did wrong, things I messed up, take notes on all the things that are now canon. The second time I would just watch my players' reactions, because that is so powerful to see that, like, when I did this one thing, I thought everyone was laughing, but that player number 3 got really down and didn't say anything for the rest of the stream. When you're in it, you don't realize it, and you're like, oh shit, like, okay, I need to acknowledge this first off and then try to evolve that later. But anyway, but yeah, I love all of that. That's kind of what the basis of what Fabled 42 is we're a community. We're here to push Wounded Warrior Project. We're here to push Lawful Stupid and their charity. We're here to push Vorpal and Thad and Vorpal Board and what they're doing, and what Tabletop Game and Hobby is doing, and what all of these other people are doing. Like, I say this, and my producer, I have producers now, which is great. I'm not by myself, but so now my producers are like, hey, Solo, don't do that. I'm like, hey, that's who we are. So, like, I promote people who have streams that coincide with what we're doing. I'm like, look, if someone really likes that stream, I'm going to promote them. And if they really want to watch that stream, great. They'll catch us on our VOD. That's the mindset. That's the thing, is we are this community. Sure, no one's going to be Critical Role, and that's fine. I don't want to be Critical. I want to be something bigger. I want to be a community of a dozen different...
Small goals.
Small goals. Yeah. This is me. This is what I do. But the idea is we have like over 100 content creators and designers and artists and other charities and just all these different things, and it's just, as this community, we just keep growing and just trying to help. And that's the whole point of this weekend's charity, is trying to help. I mean, Devin, I don't even remember how we started this conversation, and I said yes before you even, hey, we're doing this charity. No, it was Cameron, right? Cameron sent you?
Yeah.
Cameron sent me, because Cameron knows what I do. And the second you were like, hey, we're doing this charity, my answer was yes. I didn't even... You could have been like, hey, we're going to stream 18 hours a day, and I'd still be like, all right, let's do it. let's do it, right? But that's the mindset. It's just trying to help as much as we can. You know, like we've done a little bit to help you guys with your big charity. You know, we did $300 yesterday. You know, Wounded Warrior Project, we raised I think $900 on Monday. And these are all like last minute things, but we're trying to just do more. And I think as a community, that inspires other people to do more. That inspires people who are watching, like, yeah, let's do something. Let's try to help. Let's, you know, drop a Kraken on a level 5 party. Why not? Like, that's what it is, and it's amazing. So yeah, I'm just really excited to be here.
There is a question a little bit higher up. Barriers to entry. Bringing from Tailbinder, what did each of you find as the most challenging component of moving your games online or starting them online from the get-go? To me, there's a couple of the general perception, you know, regardless of what system you're trying to do, of that playing remotely isn't fun. And the, you know, just the barrier of tech, like normal people, oh my gosh, I have to have a webcam and a headset, and you know, just the AV connection thing is always interesting. And it happens in any system really. But you know, it's actually, when you get into it, it's still very engaging. You know, you don't feel disconnected. I mean, you're seeing people, you're interacting with folks. Is it as good as being at the table? No, of course not. But it's still, you know, I think if you find a way to make it as close to the table experience as possible, it's going to be enjoyable. And specifically to Vorpal, what, you know, this is like a different thing. It's a different way to play, and it does confuse people. They look at it and go, I don't understand it. And even folks that have used it will just use a little piece of it, and then they get comfortable with that piece and don't realize there's all these other elements that in a lot of ways can make the experience more enjoyable than even if you're at the table. So a couple of good examples of that. I mean, there are some board games that you'll play where if you're at the table, it's very hard to read things and see all the detail on the board. To read the name of a town in Pandemic from across, unless you've played Pandemic a million times and you know, okay, that's where Beijing is. But you know, with Vorpal, you're streaming the table and you can zoom in on it remotely and see that detail and be able to read those names. And another one, like digital spell area effects. So every home DM, if they bring out those little acrylic templates that try to overlay something, and it's always falling and knocking over the minis. Yeah, exactly. And then, I got to move somebody and they're underneath this whole area.
Well, yeah, then you get it like this, and
massive pain in the butt. And it's actually like super easy to do that kind of stuff digitally, and you don't lose that effect in it. You can see where it is, and then me as a player, I can place that. All right, I want to put my fireball over here in this corner and catch these 3 people. And it's actually easier than that whole back and forth with the DM to try to go, I don't know, it's smoother, I guess, in my opinion. But getting people to be comfortable with trying that stuff, it's like anything new, right? New is different, and different is weird, and I don't want to try it. That change can sometimes just inherently be a little bit of a hurdle.
Yeah, I mean, those of you who have watched us for a while, like the first year and 2 months of the Ukador network, before we actually became Fabled 42, we were all in the same room. I built a studio and a table, and we had cameras and a grid and a light box and all that in a living room in an apartment in San Francisco, and we were having a blast. We were all together, and it was a fun time. But then I couldn't afford to live out there, and another player was moving too. So then I moved. And then I moved out of state. So then we took the entire atmosphere of our in-person game and we went digital. And it was really hard. Like I was talking about before, and we didn't have the virtual dice until recently, right? So it was all like trust and just dice rolls, and was trying to maintain that same challenge, that same atmosphere. But eventually we found what that rhythm is. And, Vorpal, obviously, I'll keep talking about Vorpal, but Vorpal was definitely a big component of that, because now everybody sees everybody in the same spot. We feel a lot more interactive than like a Zoom chat, right? Because a Zoom chat, someone drops the call and they're re-scrambled and you don't know who's up or left, and it looks different for everybody. So even just that, the digital dice, all those things just make it feel so much better. But the biggest thing for me is as a DM, I used to be so restricted. I would go to the dollar store and get those little 18 by 24 black cardboard things, and I'd build some sort of set on that, and I'd have to come out and put that on the table, and that's it. And now I can show you guys, you've watched my stream. Now I have this table that's 7.5 feet by whatever, and I have technically 3 different encounters there on one table, and I have risers and things now that I can put on. So I'm super spoiled. And if you've ever seen my DM screen, I don't think I could ever use a regular DM screen anymore because I have 5 monitors with information and things up that I just have everything at my disposal. So there's a lot of things about digital that I think is better than in person, other than the actual human component. That's the only thing with the virtual world that lacks. But I think just finding that synergy with the right online tool and finding ways to have that interaction, I think a lot of those things are just... It was challenging, don't get me wrong. We spent 6 months trying to figure it out, but we finally did, and that synergy is almost there. It's not the same, but it's definitely close.
I agree. I think when I first started playing stuff online, the technology actually is not a barrier for me. I work in tech, and a big chunk of my vocational history is online course development, developing electronic, digital, computer-assisted online courseware and materials and things like that. So for me, that wasn't the hard part. In fact, this is really cool. I love the fact that I get to use the stuff I know how to do. What was hard for me was it wasn't quite the community. It was the fact that the other players are not as immersed in the idea, again, of looking at that flat, just their characters no longer that mini that they can hold and things like that. It's not the trees that they actually can kind of hide behind on the board. It's this flat thing. And I found it very difficult to keep them focused on what was going on when we tried to do a couple of things online. That just didn't really work for us. They were super distracty pants is what I'm trying to say. And so I think that the idea that I can actually give them a board to look at, that's one of my favorite things about this. That again, there's this whole, no, wait, can I hide in that tree over there, right? It's a much more, they seem much more engaged and immersed in the continuing story.
Absolutely.
And then from us, I mean, the technology piece was learning how to do everything was a refresh, right? We all had to learn oh man, how's my character sheet gonna roll? How are we gonna get this going? But I think once we got over that, I mean, I know I'm a more recent transfer, so you guys can nail me on this later, but being able to introduce new players, we're grabbing people that never even tried it before because they were on our Discord server and saw that we were on laughing up and having a blast the evening before, and now they're messaging us hey, what were you guys doing down there? And that's how we started getting new players, and our group grew. And now we're having we're looking at another DM stepping in, so we have an additional group that's going to be rolling and all this good stuff. And it's people that would have never have engaged on their own because they just didn't think it was for them. They're oh, I've heard of it, it just wouldn't connect with it. But now we have this great virtual opportunity where we're pulling people in that do have some extra time on their hands, are looking for creative outlets or ways to engage. I know one of our new players is more interested in becoming a DM, and he's only playing as a player to get enough background because they love the storytelling aspect and the idea of being able to be kind of that power behind the scenes, if you will. Don't pay attention to the guy behind the curtains here. That's that feel of it. So just seeing just hearing their voices, one of our players, Miss Fierce, she is a powerful lady, and she was the one that ran in and opened a random a chest in a empty room all on her lonesome. But it was great just seeing her respond when she found out that, oh great, the whole party is very close to dying because everything is just going wrong immediately. But it was great when building that teamwork, but seeing new players not shying away from it, but getting engaged and getting excited about it. So we can get them to a tabletop game soon. We can get them to that face-to-face spot. Yeah. I think it's a sweet way to look at this. So the negatives are there, definitely learning how to do it, transitioning to the e-world, bandwidth, connection issues, me freezing randomly, but it actually working through and becoming a great element to bring in those new players.
There's another digital tool set, and sorry to jump in front of you, Evan, but we got to mention it. D&D Beyond is specifically for the D&D community. It is so easy, and it strips out a lot of the complexity. You don't have to be an expert in the player's handbook and understand every different perturbation that's come out in the last 35, 40 years of Dungeons and Dragons. It streamlines that a player who doesn't really understand the game can just very quickly hop on a complete newbie and have a fun experience.
It guides you right through. I mean, I do camps for kids. I DM for 9 and 10-year-olds, and a lot of them don't know how to play D&D, and D&D Beyond helps do that. Like, it helps guide them, and it shows you. I mean, the same thing. It's funny that you brought that up. The last question I was going to ask was, how do you feel that the digital tools that we have now have impacted or helped new players get into tabletop?
I think
you guys already said it, but D&D Beyond, honestly, the walkthroughs, like, especially when it comes to like multi-classing, when you're starting to get a little bit into multi-classing for the first time, or you haven't done it in a long time, the rules are easily read. It has that nice walkthrough. It has that, scale already built in there, so you know how many spells you should be looking at, so you're not going over the top. It's great that there are tools like that that could help newbies or people that have been disconnected for so long, learning the new rule set, seeing what can work with what, and not being overpowered or underpowered going in. So like our new players were able to set up their characters mostly on their own with maybe a little bit tweaking here and there, explaining a stat, but they were able to get their character up and running and into the game without us having to sit there line by line with them. A lot of it was just like common sense, like, okay, this means this, got it. It's great that there are tools like that.
Well, and the feature as a DM, like, it's my campaign. You're in there. I can manipulate and walk you through. Hey, here's your stat. Like when I any of my streams, I have all of my players' tabs open. So if one player's like, man, what's that racial ability? I have it up. I pull it up and I help him. So that I have that fluidity, and it's fantastic. Laura, you were going to say something?
Oh, well, no, I was just going to say that I think exposure has been this isn't specifically gaming tech, but tech in general, the access to shows like Critical Role, to yours, the ability to go in and stream games and see what it's like, and to see, at least from a player perspective, I think it's a little harder to understand what it's like to GM, because when you see GMs, we tend, if you're good at it, I think you tend to make it look easy and effortless, and it's anything, what's going on in your head is very different, right? It's the duck paddling below the water, furiously, right? But I think that at least from a player perspective, they all look at it and go, "Oh my God, that looks like so much fun!"
It is,
right?
Yeah.
So that is one of the things I think has been a big boon for the resurgence of D&D and gaming in general.
Yeah, and I think like, which is one of my final thought anyway, to touch on that, like, and that's what it's about. It's fun. Like, no offense, I know a lot of people really, really love 3.5 and 2nd edition, and they thought that the number crunching was fun. I get it. But 5th edition has made it fun for everyone. Like, have fun with it. Like, if you don't agree with the rules, then slightly tweak them for your house rules. It's fine. If you look into the monster manual and you see a normal cat doesn't have dark vision and you think it's stupid, yes, you give that cat dark vision because you feel like that cat should have dark vision because cats have dark vision, right? Simple things like that, right? So it's about having fun. And in the beginning, I used to have, like, I was a game designer too, so I'm really like, you walk into this room and you go here, and these are the 3 things that can happen. I would have that super stringent outline. I don't have it anymore. I built my cities and my towns and my things, and my what's going to happen in this world is whatever, and I improv the shit out of it all. I just have fun, and that's who I am, and that's what I do. And it's about finding what works for you as a player, as a DM. If you're playing in a game and you're not having a good time, you're in the wrong group. You're in the wrong party. You're in the wrong DM. Or if you're the DM, you have the wrong party. And, like, understanding what you want as a player or a DM first, and then finding people that like that, and then you guys will have a blast. And you'll, like, Devin, we just talked about it. Like, we played a 6-hour game, and he was like, wait, it was just done. 6 hours just went by. And you're like, wow. Like, we can play for another 6 probably, right? Like, it's just one of those things that where you really get into it and you really get in that immersion. It's why I use sand, even though I hate sand. And I hated sand before I went to Iraq, and I hated sand even more now. But I use sand to cover up my seams just for immersion, because that's how obsessed I am with that. So it's just, I just love all those juicy things. And it's just, but if you don't love what you do, then why are you doing it? That's my biggest thing. Then why are you doing it? But anyway, any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
There's one other digital tool I want to mention too. Hero Forge, which has been around for a while on the 3D custom minis. Their new color tool is absolutely insane if you haven't tried it out. Yeah. It's available to the Kickstarter backers now, but it'll be released soon. And for a DM, like, to be able to create an NPC, and it literally will take 2 or 3 minutes to create a completely custom mini that you've messed with, but then you can apply a color palette to
Yeah.
it and bring it in. And I think you show your players that, and it just adds to that storytelling element. You don't even necessarily have to print it, and they're probably
Yeah.
going to hate me for saying this, but you can create that digital asset
Yeah.
and show your players, and then it's something that's specific to your world and how you want to create it. But also for players, like I have half a dozen minis of the various player characters that I have, and one on a mounted wolf that's coming that's going to be crazy in the new color. And it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of 3D printing type. I mean, Hero Forge has, I think, the best
that's
creation tool.
Oh yeah, I mean that's what my minis are that my players created. We created a relaxed RP version and a bow and arrow version, just because like if they're in a tavern, I don't want them walking around with their bow drawn. That just seems, and that's just me. That's just me being me. But Hero 4, the quality is great. The quality is really good. I always say get the better plastic one. That's just my thing. But these were actually printed by Griffin Co. But anyway. Because you can do the 3D file stuff.
There's plenty of people that will do the printing for you too, so you can create your own. If you want to go really crazy, I mean, you can get outside of the streamlined automated tools and get into 3D modeling. But they've made it very approachable. You don't have to have any programming ability. You're just clicking on different options, and all the complexity is stripped out. It's very, very easy.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, yeah, we're at time, but yeah, thank you all for joining us in the panel. I really enjoyed talking about this stuff, if you haven't realized, and just really excited about all the different connections and stuff. Working with Wounded Warrior Project, new connections with Tabletop, new connections with Lawful Stupid, and this whole event. So to continue this thread, we are going to take a break for about an hour. So go do what you gotta do, come back. At 4 o'clock Pacific, we are going to have Winds of Change. Is that what it's called?
Winds of Change. Yes, Jason from Critical Dice.
Jason Russell from Critical Dice. He also DMs Fables of Ukador here on the Fable channel. We'll be DMing a little interesting motley crew of chaos. I have no idea what he's going to do. A little terrified. His last time he did something, it was a meat grinder and everybody died. But
the blast though.
It was a blast. But yeah, so thank you all so much for joining. Check out the link down below for the Min-Max Mankind link and the Child's Play charity, and we will see you all next time. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Yeah, thanks.